How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. And my sound is all out of whack here. Let me turn this down a little bit. There you go. I had it turned up like this when I started. I don't know why. Well, maybe it's because I'm tired of feeling alone in my apartment. And I wanted to feel as though I'm standing in front of an auditorium full of great Americans. So today we're going to talk about the 5 living former presidents otherwise known as complete failures, and I'll explain that, what I mean by that. Also, I've come to conclusion. James Comey is a weird freaking dude. I'll let you make your own conclusions about it, but some strange people in this world. We'll talk about some other things. I'm exhausted, I'll tell you why. Let's get started with this. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right. So I want to tell everybody that this, so I hosted David Webb's show this morning. I hosted it on Friday. Let me see real quick what how good the book is doing after hosting that show. Yeah, it's doing good. It's still #1 in one category on Amazon bestseller list. That's up for pre-sale, right? So looks like it's doing, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more than that. It's doing good. So but still, it's not enough. It's never good enough. We got to get the word out. What I'm hoping to do is I came up with a plan to promote this book as much as possible. One thing I'd like to do is, if you know anybody who's got big, deep pockets, what I'd like to do is offer some classes to some big donors, and like a course for to teach their families. Like, we need to get more than just one donor, but to teach their families about the reality of protecting themselves, and then I'll do that for free, but on only if they buy a certain amount of books. We're looking at 100 or 1,000 books, and we'll donate those books to women's battered women's shelters, so that they can now read this book and kind of determine where, who, why, where, when, and how they could be attacked. And I think this would be a good way for people that have some deep pockets to learn for themselves what they should learn. I mean, really, if they have, I won't say who, but I've done protection work for people who are billionaires, and they have no clue the threat that they're under on a constant basis. They need to read this book themselves, but it would be great for them to be able to give back by buying a certain amount of books and then letting us donate those to battered women's shelters, universities. If you want to buy it for universities, we can give it to students in universities. Anything, people, I don't know. There's all kinds of places where we could donate these books for people to read, based on people that are reaching out and purchasing a number of these books for these types of groups. So that's just an idea that it's one of the ideas that I came up with, and I think hopefully it'll catch on and we'll be able to do that. So I am extremely tired today because I know I keep saying I'm editing my book, but there's little edits that have to be done here and there while it gets formatted before it actually goes to the printer. We were going to try to release the book early after having talked with my publisher. I'm not a writer. I'm not a, well, I guess I have a talent for writing, but I'm not a grammar, buff. I don't, grammar was never my thing, right? So the substance is there, but I had, it needed more editing on my book. I didn't want to send it out because I didn't want people getting something that wasn't, that was subpar. So, we took extra time to edit it. So it's going to come out pretty much as of right now, December 12th. And, but we need, in order to make all these bestseller lists, the way it works is, the books, the way New York Times bestseller list works is, it is the first week of when the book goes, when it ships. It's the number of books that ship that first week. That's what determines your rise or fall on the New York Times bestseller list. So that's what we're pushing for. We want to get more books and more books sold before we get to that point, like in the month of November. So when they ship December 12th, we're shipping a high volume of these books. Now, so I was doing my edits last night. I knew I had to host this morning David Webb show, and I didn't get much sleep the night before that because I'm working on getting everything ready for my audiobook. Brian Gosher, who does all the music for this show, he's coming over tomorrow. He's going to teach me how to do this stuff so I can edit the book in my own little studio here. So if you get an audiobook, that you're going to know that book was recorded in the studio that I do this show from, which is in my apartment. And so you will, you'll know that it's got CQRF all over it. So he's going to come tomorrow and show me that. So I was up this weekend doing stuff. I always look for an excuse not to sleep even though I'm tired. So I didn't get much sleep Saturday night. Sunday night, I was up till 4 in the morning working on the final edits of this book. I send that off to the editor. I go to sleep for about 2 hours. I get up, and I go to Sirius, host David Webb show this morning. Went straight over to Newsmax, did a man on the street, which I'm going to try to pull that up so you can see it. It's actually a pretty funny video, so we'll try to pull that up. And not funny, but it's interesting. I went on a man on the street in Times Square asking people about what they think about the Bo Bergdahl potentially getting life in prison. So it was very interesting to see their responses. Did that, came home, took care of Rico, went back to Newsmax, did the live show, came all the way back home, and then here I am doing this show right here. And shortly after this show, I'm going to feed Rico. I'm going to feed me. We're going to walk Rico, and I am passing out because I'm going to host tomorrow again David Webb show on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125. Now, I've got to ask everybody something. I've been getting, now that this show's been going for a couple of years, and it's hard to believe it's been that long, but it's been about 2 years. Should we shorten the intro to 30 seconds, a minute? My investigation of Facebook, especially Facebook, it takes about 2 minutes for people to get notified and get on there. But should we shorten it? Because I've had several people tell me that it's like 2 minutes before I ever start, not 2 minutes, like 6 minutes before I start actually talking about the subjects. And that's a problem for a lot of people. And I can understand that if they see it on a daily basis. So we need to think about that and potentially shortening the intro. But the problem is then where you all get notified, and that's a problem. So that's why I'm tired. That's what I'm thinking about. Let's go to where we're already at the warning order. Let me just start off with James Comey before I get to these presidents. James Comey evidently has a Twitter account, secret Twitter account. You may have heard about this. And the weird thing about it, he's weird. Let's just be honest, he's weird, is the pictures that this guy puts up. Like, I'm actually not even mad. That's amazing. And that's a picture from Anchorman. You have, I don't know where that is. I don't know where that is, but oh, that's at West Point. Yeah. This is a picture of, you can't see it, but right here where my pointy is right there, there's a tall guy standing right there, way in the distance. I think that's what it is. I think it's a tall guy. Or it might be another picture of something from West Point. Oh, Gettysburg. Yeah. Good place to think about leadership and values. You know, another good place to think about leadership and values there, James Comey, would be when you're head of the FBI, running the FBI. That's probably a good place to consider leadership and values. Not after you've embarrassed the entire FBI and leaked information to cause a special counsel. Who knows what else you're involved with this whole uranium thing, but what a weirdo, this guy. Here's a picture of, again, you can't see it. It's not even worth me taking the time, I think, to fix this where you can see it. But I'll do it. There you go. So it's a picture of a really tall guy standing in a cornfield with his back to the camera. This is your former FBI director, ladies and gentlemen. It's strange. Strange. Good to be back in Iowa. Who cares? Watching migrating white pelicans in Iowa, thinking about Niebuhr's, I think I'm saying that right, Niebuhr's serenity prayer. You should be praying to God that you don't go to jail. That's what you should be praying. And here he is. This is his secret Twitter account. I guess it's not so secret anymore. And he says, goodbye, Iowa, on the road home. Got to get back to writing. We'll try to tweet in useful ways. You know what you should do, Mr. Comey? I'm just going to go on a limb here. You should sit your ass down and have a come to Jesus talk about the fact that you are crooked. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen because narcissists and psychopaths and criminals that belong to organized criminal enterprises typically they don't grasp reality like most normal people. So I don't think that you're going to get it, but you need to be you should take some time and go, and if you're really wanting to reflect on what you did to this country by we don't even know with the uranium stuff what you did yet, but what you did in the election process was a scam. You caused this special prosecutor, which is your buddy, which is Robert Mueller, who's another fruit basket, I think another soulless psychopath, and all these people are working together. So, look, a couple things. For one, you better start cherishing every single minute that you have, because by and large, you're probably one of the main reasons why Hillary Clinton didn't get elected. And I know I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. No way. Secondly, you did a complete dishonor in your service to the FBI and the men and women that work and support the FBI. You were a disaster of a boss. Third, I would be on your knees praying that we don't find out the reality of what you did with the uranium deal, because if you're involved in that, and I think you probably are, I would love to see you go to jail. I'd love to see you go to jail anyway for leaking classified internal information to your buddy so he would directly give it to the press. Yeah, that'd be nice. By the way, because I am so exhausted tonight, I'm probably going to cut this show a little short so I can do a better show tomorrow and be refreshed for David Webb's show in the morning. And yes, I am having a Corona Light. But that's okay. Now, you know, when I was on Newsmax television today, let's see if the names of these soldiers come up, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've been so busy that I haven't, like most people, the news definitely hasn't. And I'm not going to talk about the timeline yet about what happened. But I will tell you this, it was not Benghazi all over again. These individuals were not involved in something that equates to Benghazi. And it was, they're working with it, which I've done similar missions. They were working with the host nations. I mean, I don't know exactly what they were doing, but I'm sure they're training with the host nation. They're probably doing certain things there in Africa to go after some of these terrorist groups. And but we don't hear about any of these other people. We don't hear their names. We only hear this guy's name right here. And why? Great. I'm sure he's a great human, a great man. But basically, we're just hearing his name because of his wife and his, not really his parent, I think it was his grandparent, and Representative Wilson, Frederica Wilson, who is the crazy lady with the cowboy hats and all that nonsense that looks like she just is about to go to a fairground and ride one of those electric horses that kids do when they come out of the shopping centers. But we don't hear the rest of these individuals' names. So I want to point this out. U.S. Special Forces Sergeant Brian Black, right here. U.S. Army Special Forces Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson. U.S. Special Forces Sergeant Dustin Wright. And U.S. Special Forces Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. Now, I don't know if these two guys were actually Special Forces, and they were just given that because the editors that are doing this don't know what they're doing. He's wearing a maroon beret. He doesn't have a beret on. I thought he had a maroon beret in another picture. If that's the case, they are not Special Forces. They would be attached to the Special Forces unit. So, I don't know. But see, we should know that. I should know that. And I should be ashamed of myself for not knowing that, whether or not they actually were. But this is all we're fed constantly in the media. We don't talk about these individuals for the right reasons. We only talk about them because of, and if I was this guy, I'd be embarrassed because of the nonsense, political nonsense that's coming out about this, about our president, about there was this ridiculous op-ed today on, I got to be honest, I write op-eds. I've written a couple op-eds for Fox News. Why would they publish this article by this guy today who was equating, I'm not even going to say what the guy's name is. I talked about this earlier on Sirius XM today. Why would they even publish this guy's article? He was equating to the speech that General Kelly gave to the to Caesar back in the day, having people get on a knee and kiss the signet ring. I tell you, that infuriated me when I saw it, because what I saw with General Kelly, not only did it make me shed tears, but the reality was General Kelly was doing that for the benefit of the American people and for the benefit of the News Corps, who obviously didn't get it. But when he described how a body is prepared to be brought back, which we've gone over this last week, I mean, folks, he was talking about his own son, basically. That's what happened to his son. So I find it extremely distasteful, not just to have written an op-ed that's stupid, but to be the person that decided, yeah, we're going to publish that. I would hope that Fox News would not be so click happy for clicks that they would publish more things like that. It's ridiculous. But that's why we get away from looking at who these men are. These great and brave men. And by the way, if he's not Special Force and he's not, and I don't know if they are, that's okay. They have a job to do, and they were doing it. And it's all relevant to their job and their training and where they're at. So there you go, guys. Special Forces Sergeant Brian Black, U.S. Army Special Forces Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson, Special Forces Sergeant Dustin Wright, and Special Forces Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. Well, we salute you, and we thank you for the sacrifices that you made, not only here, but for here, by going abroad and fighting those who wish to do this country harm. May God bless your souls. So we don't look at those people enough, and I think it's kind of, it says a lot about the media, about the press, and it says a lot about us when we get so distracted so easily that we don't even pay attention to who these people are and the sacrifice that they're making. We're going to go to the A block real quick, and I'm going to talk about the 5 living former presidents. And I've got to get this. I know I talked about it today on Sirius, but I've got to get this off my chest here on this show before I get off this show and go crash. And trust me, I'm like literally, I was on Newsmax today. If you watched it, you could see my eyes were like this because I am just exhausted. It's a good feeling though. You know that feeling when you do a lot of work and you have meaning, which is trust me, when you leave a job that pays you a regular salary, especially a government job, and you're trying to invent ways to get work and to create another career, it is a scary thing when you're having to do all this stuff on your own. It's a scary thing when you're having to go out on your own and do this stuff. But a lot of times when you leave a 9-to-5 job, there may be times where you don't have any work at all. In fact, working is really more about creating the jobs, and then doing them is the easy part, right? So there's long periods of time where, I'm doing this show, I'm trying to create stuff, but when I'm this tired, it's because I'm working. And that's a good feeling, even though my eyes want to shut. Let's go to the A block, and we're going to talk now about the five living former presidents. Let's do it. Maybe, hold on. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. Now, if you have not ordered that book that you just saw, let's get this going. I told you about how I'm wanting to figure out a way to get this book promoted and get it into women's shelters, get it to universities on big numbers, right? This book should be in every household in the United States. Trust me, when you start hearing about it, and I'm going to go over it more and more the closer we get to the book's release, you're going to want one of these because it's going to help you look at your life from an attacker's perspective and actually divvy your life up into these different sectors. Why? Well, first of all, you need to have this awareness. If you go through life like a zombie, you're going to end up getting hurt, killed, maimed. Oh, how horrible would that be? You have kids, they'll be homeless or without a parent. That's terrible. So you need to develop your awareness, and you also need to understand where you could be a target and how other people would choose you as a target or choose a location that you just happen to walk into. So that's what the book is about. You want to pre-order it. You can get it at Amazon, and you can buy more than one and spread those around to people as so fit. Now, let's talk about this picture right here. This wasn't the actual picture I saw, but it was another one. I thought it was the best one that represented what I saw. So I saw the 5 living presidents, and they were appearing the other night for this Houston Relief concert. And on the left there, we have Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George Bush 41. You have George Bush 43, his son, and Barack Obama all cuddled up to him there, with his hand over him like that, like he's awesome. I also don't know why they wouldn't have all 5 of them sit if President Bush 41 can't get up because he's in a wheelchair. Why isn't everybody else sitting? That's a little odd. Anyway, so what I see when I look at this picture, and so many people talk about, oh my goodness, this, the 5 former presidents all living are up there together at one time. Folks, these people are not celebrities. They are not kings. They are not super intelligent CEOs that ran the country to the point where it was in the, you were in the stars. Everybody was fine. Everything was fixed. Well, let's look back at reality. Jimmy Carter, there on the left, was president when the global war on terror really started, is when Iran overthrew the Shah, which we didn't get involved with, and then told us that they were going, that they declared war against the West. I don't think that it's much more difficult. This is after they had all those individuals that were hostage from the embassy. This guy, Jimmy Carter, never named the enemy. He never went after the enemy. There was a failed attempt to rescue those hostages in the desert, but that was not the turning of events for special operations and their real mission and what they're qualified for. That was actually a turning of events. I think a lot of things came out of that, but that wasn't the intention of that mission, to change things. So you shift forward from there, skip over Bill Clinton, you go to George Bush Sr., and that's after the Reagan era. But which Reagan still had the problems. He didn't solve the problems. Even starting with Carter, immigration was an issue. Fuel was an issue. Crime was an issue. What else we have? Spousal abuse was an issue. On and on. Crime in the inner cities was already starting to become a major issue, and the trafficking of weapons, illegal weapons, that was all an issue. The war on drugs, terror, all this stuff. And none of it was solved in Jimmy Carter's time. Not one thing. Then came 41, George Bush 41, after Reagan. And just George Bush 41, not only did he not get reelected because he was so out of touch, and that's when I was a senior in college, beginning in high school and then going almost into college. I moved to California. He was in office, and he was completely out of touch with the American people. I don't know how he is now, but he was completely out of touch then, and did not do this country any favors. Former CIA agent, or at least he was head of the CIA. I don't know if he's an agent, but he should have had a better grasp on what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how we're going to carry this out. But he didn't, and his presidency was a failure. Did he solve the war on drugs? No. Did he solve the war on terror? No, it was going to get big in the next election. Did he solve any of these issues that we have today that are longstanding issues? No. Did President Carter or Bush 41 even begin to tackle the potential that North Korea would be an issue down the road? No, nothing successful. You move from Bush 41, and that's when you have the Bill Clinton era, and it doesn't get any better. Bill Clinton is one scandal after another. Potentially now that we're seeing that they were involved with a pay-for-play scheme to trade uranium with the Russians in order to get money for Bill Clinton's speeches, and no telling what else they got that we don't even know about. Very corrupt. Very, very corrupt. Sitting next to George Bush Sr. is George Bush Jr., also known as 41. I think he had the qualities of being a great leader, but he is a Bush, and he follows his father's footsteps. And I believe that George Bush, when he was running for office, the guy, George Bush 43, when he was running for office, I thought that he was going to be a much better president than he was, but he wasn't. And so when he ran for office and Bill Clinton had done his 8 years surviving all these scandals, Bush 43 then took office and 9/11 happened. And for 16 years, 8 years for him and 8 years for Obama, nothing got fixed when it comes to the war on terror. Let's go back to Carter. The war on drugs didn't fix it. Reagan didn't fix it. Bush 41 didn't fix it. 8 years of Clinton didn't fix it. 8 years of Bush didn't fix it. 8 years of Obama didn't fix it. We still got the war on drugs. The war on terror started with Carter, went through with Reagan, Bush 41, Clinton 43, Obama. Nobody fixed it. In fact, it got worse, and 9/11 happened, and then the whole world was changed by that. You look at immigration. Carter didn't fix immigration. Clinton didn't fix immigration. Bush didn't fix immigration. Obama didn't fix it. It's a bigger problem than it's ever been. They failed on that. Healthcare. Everybody's so concerned on healthcare, and it's always, we got to fix this now. Carter didn't fix it. Reagan didn't fix it. Bush 41 didn't fix it. Clinton, Bush 43, and Obama. Failures didn't fix it. We could go through every major thing. North Korea. North Korea was a problem probably 30 years before, or at least 20 years, 30 years before Carter came into office. Carter didn't do anything about it. He passed the buck to Reagan. Reagan didn't fix that problem. He passed the buck to George Bush Sr. He didn't fix it, passed it to Clinton. Clinton helped them finance it. Clinton helped them finance it by thinking that the UN was going to police this, and they were going to use whatever technology that they had or money they had for good purposes, because North Korea has always shown that it was good. He failed. George Bush 43 failed, didn't do anything about it. Obama didn't do anything about it. He passed it to Trump, and now we're looking at potential nuclear war. I could go on and on. I could go on and on about these individuals. But folks, when I see this picture, I am not looking at 5 former presidents that I'm like, wow, the country is in such great shape. It's not. I'm not looking at these presidents and saying, man, it's unbelievable how squared away. Jimmy Carter is a Naval Academy grad. Unbelievable. He's so successful. No. Bill Clinton, Rhodes Scholar. Wow. Unbelievable. No. The Bushes, this power family. Failures. Barack Obama, I don't know where that guy came from. I really don't know where he came from. But I think that he's a failure. So I think we have to be very careful when we make politicians celebrities. You cannot become a fan of politicians. You can't put politicians on a pedestal, and you can't put politicians up and expect them to be somebody that they're not. Especially the presidents. Anybody that has Republican or Democrat behind their name is most likely going to be a failure. And I'll tell you why. Because their duty is to their party. Their party is what gets them reelected. The party is what helps finance their elections. The party is what protects them. But when you look at it, it's gotten so out of hand that we don't even have really checks and balances in government anymore. We don't have executive, judicial, and legislative branches. We don't. There were supposed to be checks and balances that watched over to make sure that one wasn't more powerful than the other, that one wasn't scamming. They were supposed to watch each other. They don't. You know why? Because it's the Democratic and the Republican Party, and they have a scam going that is huge. And they're okay with that. That's what they worked on for 200 and something years. So, people, we have to start realizing you cannot worship these people. These people are failures. You don't have to respect these people. You can respect the office of the President of the United States, but you do not have to respect these people. I don't respect them. It's like talking about John McCain, and everybody says, you must respect him. He was a war hero. John McCain did some very heroic things when he was a prisoner of war for 5 years, I believe. He did some amazingly heroic things. He was a veteran. He went to the Naval Academy. Man, you got some problems with the Naval Academy. He went to the Naval Academy. He charged in the battle on the strapped to an airplane, doing what he was doing. He got shot down, and he served admirably and honorably. Can't take that away from him. But that moment in time did not make up for the next, 40 years from that point forward. John McCain has been a failure of a politician, just like these individuals have been failures of politicians. And I don't care what their service is. Their service, if they were in the military, is different than their service in this capacity. These individuals are failures. We have to start realizing this. The standard right now, we don't have a standard of good. Okay, Ronald Reagan was a standard. I get it. But Ronald Reagan didn't fix any of this stuff. The only standard that we have right now is the standard of failure. So we have to say, okay, this has been the standard of failure for all the past presidents. Now we judge people and say, okay, have they gotten immigration fixed? Have they gotten the war on drugs, the war on terror? Have they gotten health care where it's actually affordable? I mean, I don't know why we don't just regulate the hospitals and the insurance companies. I don't know. It's weird. But have they fixed those problems? Have they worked to go against the communist subversive movement in this country, which people seem to think that's just crazy? Communism, that went out with the Cold War. It did not go out with the Cold War. It's stronger now than it's ever been in this country. Way stronger than when the Weather Underground was around. They thought they had to bomb people using terrorism, but what you have now is they're not worried about convincing the rest of the people. What they figured out is, instead of trying to convince the people to follow them, they'll go in, get positions in high power, and just change the laws. That's what they're doing. So I think I'll close with this, folks. You have to realize that you are the power in this country. You are the ones that, you're also failures. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. The American citizenry is a failure because we've gotten comfortable and we are failing in our comfort. Now, you may say, I work all the time, I'm not comfortable. Well, you come home and you kick your shoes off, or let's say on the weekend, instead of, I don't know, having dialogue with people to find out what are we ever going to do if the government becomes centralized and gets worse. Instead of that, you're going to go to a football game where you should be boycotting completely. You're making these decisions based on comfort. I want that, I'm going to do that. I'm not really worried about this right now. Well, you should be worried. You should be worried. So it's really, really up to us to save this country and to make it great again. But I don't know, folks. I don't know. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. I've got to get something to eat, get Rico something to eat, take him outside, walk him, come back inside, and crash. But here's the lessons. I tell you what, let's go to the Truth Zone, and I'm going to talk about the lessons for tonight and for today. All right, so let's do that. And stand by. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right. Music by Brian Gosher. So here's the lesson learned from today. Just because you're director of the FBI or former director of the FBI doesn't mean that you can't be crazy. It doesn't mean that at all. They say on average, I don't remember the exact number, but there's a high number of CEOs in this country that have psychopathic tendencies. They do say 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. It's kind of, I get different statistics for different people, but they say that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people in the world have psychopathic tendencies. You can be director, the head of the FBI, and portraying somebody who's honorable, but be so caught up in your ego like a narcissist, or so caught up in self-fulfillment like a psychopath that there's no even emotion when you're involved in things that are corrupt. James Comey fits that bill. Bob Mueller fit that bill and is fitting the bill heavily right now as he investigates all this stuff about Trump with the Russian collusion when this guy was part of the real Russian collusion. But yet he hires all these people that work for him at the point in time when the Russian collusion with the uranium deal was in effect, when the Clintons were getting paid for speeches, when the Clintons were getting paid big money, millions of dollars going to the Clinton Foundation, is when they were doing all this stuff with uranium. With our uranium. It's what nuclear bombs are made out of, for goodness sakes. The lesson of the day is just because somebody's in political office. It's not, look, I have a heartache with actors and actresses, but at least you have to have some talent in order to succeed at that job. As a politician, the only talent you have to have is getting elected. They have shown if they continue to get reelected, they don't have to do anything, they do less. You would think the more they get elected, the more people expect. The more they get elected, the less they do, and the more people just say, and they elect them again. It's like a mass psychosis going on in this country. Now, the only way you stop these things is if you wake up. But you have to wake up, folks. You have to wake up. And so again, the lesson is, don't make celebrities out of these people. Expect results. Don't just say, I hope they do good. Oh, but Congress doesn't really want to do anything. Listen, if you're an outside-of-the-box thinker and you're President of the United States, you should be, you have the power of the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, all these other law enforcement agencies. You've got the CIA, the NSA. If these politicians are doing nefarious things and they're colluding with foreign entities and with public and private entities to pad their pockets and make millions, that's a crime. A president that thinks outside of the box should be going after these people and destroying them. And if the political parties are a national security threat to this country, and I believe they are, we should go after them and we should shut them down. I'm Jonathan Gillum. My old buddy Rico's asleep over there. Thank you for joining me. Sorry I'm so tired I got to get out of here. I'll be back tomorrow, though, on David Webb Show tomorrow morning, SiriusXM Patriot Channel 125. I'll be back here tomorrow night. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.